Eden Zero chapter 212 is currently out, and honestly, overall, I am very happy with this chapter. It was a good chapter, it has some nice action, and had some nice interactions and reveals. Though the pacing of the arc is coming into question a bit for me, primarily by the end. Now, I do believe next chapter might actually rectify this, because I do have some concerns with how this chapter ended, but it was also a relatively good ending, I think. It was a bit of a mixed bag for me, but I'll get into that once I get into the actual chapter review. But before all that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help. I do enjoy doing the Eden Zero content on this channel. It honestly really is fun to make these videos, and I like reviewing them week after week, as Eden Zero is one of my favorite ongoing manga series right now. So just commenting, hitting the bell button, and liking the video shows you guys like it, and it'll help this channel grow and help grow the Eden Zero audience on this channel as well, so it keeps me motivated to make more videos. But enough with the rambling, let's get on with the video and hit that intro. Chapter 212 of Eden Zero, titled Mobius. This does get very tied in towards the latter half of the chapter, so it's a pretty good title. So this chapter starts off from where we found out from last week, with Hermit looking over Elsie's medical records from 18 years ago. You know, so we get everything about her injuries, all over her bodily injuries from when they found her. But Hermit isn't looking for her physical condition. And she tries to go back and find a video record on what Elsie specifically said back then. So it's not a physical thing about her body, but something that she said. Maybe a repressed memory or something that she experienced during the fall of Lendard that has to tie to the true enemy. And I'll probably get back to like a mini theory at the end of this chapter. We cut back with Justice facing off against Aknoella on top of one of her dragons. She levitates and goes up into the air, calling for her children to see your mother's enemies and exterminate them as she changes shape. I have no idea if this is overdrive. It could be, or this could just be some sort of like mode change, because she is more or less kind of a cyborg or robot android thing now. But this is a really cool design, and she does look a bit more draconic, if that makes sense. She does look more like a dragon, fitting in the name, Queen of the Dragons and stuff like that. But then all the dragons in the sky start firing towards Justice as he tries to evade them, but they end up destroying the dragon that he was standing on, completely annihilating it. Justice manages to fly out of the way, and even Homer's confused. Wait, they destroyed a fellow dragon. They attacked it, but then another dragon goes up to try and attack Homer. She manages to maneuver around it and ends up trying to use her ultimate move, Odin's Strike. But despite all that, she managed to only take down one dragon with her best attack, showing just how strong these dragons are and how formidable they are, even compared to using a mech that is able to use larger versions of her ether powers. So Homer decides to go after the source, which is Aknoella. Justice ends up doing the exact same thing and charges up and lands a punch towards Aknoella, which she then blocks. He's asking, where are you breeding all these dragons? As she says, you haven't figured it out? Foolish boy. As she motions her fingers and uses, I believe, a laser blast of ether, or some sort of ether blast from her fingers in the shape of a dragon's claw, and hits Justice in the chest, forcing him back, actually getting him to bleed a little bit from the mouth. She goes on to explain, I produced them right here on Lendard, as Justice is confused about this information. And this is like a nice bit of like lore for a bit of the dragons in Eden Zero and the current dragons we're seeing right now from Aknoella. She's like, she didn't create all of the dragons. Dragons have been coming into being and forming falls at the borders between cosmoses since time immemorial. But they are no longer the only dragons, as she found a way to produce her own. And she reveals that this is the Lendard Kingdom's greatest invention, the perpetual mecha soldier birthing machine, more commonly known as Mobius. Justice is shocked to hear this, as apparently development on that machine was supposed to have been halted. But Aknoella says that publicly it was halted, at least for the public knowledge. but it continued in secret behind closed doors. If Elsie didn't start her little rebellion, the machine would have been completed 3 years sooner than it would have been. Justice concludes that Aknoella managed to steal Mobius, and she's been creating dragons ever since. But she corrects him, saying that she didn't steal it. She was the one who invented it in the end. She is currently loaning it to Ziggy, but Mobius belongs to her. As Justice is surprised to hear that she is from Lendard, she's a Lendarian. And she looks down at Justice, motioning her fingers, and says, "That's enough discussion." As a dragon appears on top of Justice, mouth open, about to fire a blast point blank at him, as he can't evade in time. But Homura, coming in clutch, manages to run in and grab Justice and shield him from the brunt of the blast. She is hit into the ground from this large point blank laser cannon, as Justice is wondering why is Homura helping him. Dust clears as Aknoella continues the monologue, saying that she has no use for human children, they are nothing but trouble, and says that she prefers machines. All of them listen to their mother. Going on to say that she is the mother of dragons and she has forsaken her human form and became a god. So, obviously a classic story of someone giving up their humanity for power, seemingly eternal life, since she more or less kind of a machine, and creating her own little utopia kind of. She's kind of gone insane, which Tale of Zola's time. I don't hate it. It's not bad. I just want to hear more of it. But we're back to the ground. The dust clears as Justice struggles to get up, and Homura ends up falling out of the Valkyrie mech, unconscious. Aknoella continues the monologue as the dragons circle around her, saying that she has laid waste to countless planets, countless peoples, with overwhelming might of the dragons. And she's like, what should I care for the human realm? As long as I have my children, my dragons, I will always be a mother. Now the festival of chaos has only just begun. The universe will belong to us. I want more blood, more flesh, a shining crown of glory for Lendard. As Justice comes to a realization, asking, "It can't be, are you?" As Aknoella smirks, and he's like, "But that's not possible." And she's about to say her name, but a little slice at her lower torso, as the next page is a 2-page spread of Elsie showing up from behind her and slicing her in two. Which honestly is a really, really awesome panel, and I have to say, very shocked that this happened. This chapter basically got Aknoella ready to go all in to basically defeat everybody. Justice on the ground, Homura's out cold, and Elsie shows up out of nowhere, not giving 2 fucks, and ends up slicing Aknoella in half really quick. We then get another shot of Aknoella from the aftermath of Elsie up in the air. Aknoella is still alive and is writhing in pain, so she is an android now, and Elsie is super serious, really serious, not giving any real show of mercy. Justice is surprised to see Elsie there, but then Elsie motions her hands for another attack, as he begins to say that Aknoella is actually the queen of Lendard, Shia Le Lendard. As Urza begins to chant her spell, 7 stars leave your mark, as Aknoella is trying to bargain for her life. As Justice reveals the bombshell that Aknoella is Elsie's mother, as Elsie just says with a cold, angry look in her eyes, "I know," as she unleashes her grand chariot attack, seemingly evaporating and destroying Aknoella, completely evaporating her. As Justice watches in shock, with the final panel on the last page being Elsie saying, "I'll be taking Mobius now," looking incredibly dark and villainous, ending the chapter. Now, here's the thing. Overall, I enjoyed this chapter. I said this at the beginning. I think the pacing of this chapter was relatively nice for the most part, with Justice confronting Aknoella. I wanted this fight to go on a little longer and see Homura do a bit more to help Justice against Aknoella. But those former dragons kept her from doing that, which it makes sense. I wanted Justice to show more of what he could do, have him do Grand Chariot, and see if he could deal some damage to Aknoella. Now, The idea of the Mobius device makes sense to the fact that Lendard is supposed to be like a factory planet that continuously makes machines and upgrades itself as well, and it makes sense why it would be Ziggy's base of operations. And Ziggy wanting world machines and Octowella only caring about machines and her dragons makes sense for them to coexist and to work together. Now, the reveal that she is actually Elsie's mother, the former queen of Lendard, is something that I wish we had a bit more foreshadowing for, because it feels like it was just another big reveal, similar to Cure being Dead and Crow. Now both are pretty good twists and reveals, but both kind of lack the build-up for them. Now, obviously Lendard is Elsie's home planet, Justice's home planet, so it makes sense that there would have to be like villains or storylines put in for them. But I just feel like Actnoella in particular, I think she needed a bit more build-up for us to guess that she was Elsie's mother. Now, Elsie showing up at the end to just mercilessly kill her own mother, honestly, was a really nice moment, and I think this is something that we can all agree on. Elsie has not made the best decisions throughout the story, primarily pertaining to Ziggy and to an extent her own planet, but it's revealed that her rash decision to kind of start her little rebellion kind of helped this whole Mobius thing be 3 years delayed in terms of its completion. So there was one positive, kind of, but Elsie made the mistake of letting Ziggy go twice. Once when he was incredibly exhausted and injured from his battle against Nero, to the point where Elsie could have just killed him in one swipe without him fighting back, and even he said so. But she let him go due to her previous feelings and connections to him and the past that they shared together. So, and that ended up causing big problems throughout the cosmos, and she is responsible for that. Right when she was beginning to steel herself to kill Ziggy on her own, when the actual Ziggy, which now we know it's not a joke, was not a ploy to let Elsie's guard down, was actually starting to slowly break through a little bit as he was losing energy in that fight, she let her guard down and she was defeated by Ziggy. So now, after everything that happened with Jessie, her crew being killed, and all the decisions that she made, causing the people she cared about to die, Elsie's just most likely was just like, okay, I've made this mistake too many times. I got to steel myself. I gotta make the decisions that I should have done beforehand. And she kills Actnoella with no mercy, even though it is her own mother, knowing that if she just lets her go, there's a good chance that her mistake will continue to repeat and more lives will be lost and more people will suffer. And I think that's a nice growth and progression for her character. Now, what she wants with Mobius, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe she wants to destroy it. It is kind of like the dark history of Lendard to an extent, so it's understandable why she would want to get rid of it. But I think next chapter is going to talk about that. Now, my issue with the pacing of this arc towards right now, after the Ziggy fights and Dead and Crow. Dead and Crow, I think, was paced relatively nicely. The reveal of Cure being Crow was something that I wasn't too keen on. It was a little iffy for me, needed more build-up. Everything with Ziggy was more or less perfect. I do think we're going to get like a climactic fight now that there's only like one fight left. If the evil Ziggy reemerges for Shiki to fight, and we still have Elsie to be fully resolved. But Actnoella, I think, should have gone on for another 2 chapters, and it just feels like the Irrational States Galactica kind of got beaten in this arc too quickly. The other half that were built up very as big threats, for 2 of them to get taken out in this arc. The other one that we have no idea about is unconscious in the medical bay, seemingly doesn't have any fighting capabilities or any real evil towards her, so she probably will be an ally, and maybe give some lore to the world and explanations for Rebecca's powers. And Ziggy is being built up to lose in this arc, leaving Elsie right now with heavy hints that she is the secret enemy. I don't think she is. I think this is just a massive red herring for Elsie to be the evil of this planet. But I think the evil of this planet is actually no one we know, and it's just one big misdirect. But it's actually the Eden's One, and more primarily the Mobius. Because remember, Hermit is at the beginning of this chapter, Hermit was looking back at Elsie's medical records, but also wanting to find footage of what Elsie said when they first found her. And Elsie wants to find Mobius. have some sort of purpose for the story, and I think that's where we're going to lead into it. There's also the possibility that Akinoella isn't out for the count, and next chapter will reveal that she regenerated, or maybe she can just recreate her body with Mobius, so Elsie and Justice have to team up to take her down and destroy Mobius to basically kill her off completely. So there's always that option. I really wish we had more of a fight with her, especially against Elsie, mother against daughter. So I feel like we could have more, but this could also be the end of Akinoella, since she was seemingly like evaporated in front of us, similarly to how Kira was destroyed, along with Dead End Crow. But yeah, overall, a pretty solid chapter. I have a bit of a pacing issue for me. I don't know how everyone else feels. I like how Elsie is progressing to just literally just go through and follow through with her decisions to make sure she doesn't make the exact same mistakes that screwed over everyone and the cosmos over the last 3 years and in her past. So I'm thankful that Elsie is literally going to take things more seriously and is just going to do whatever it takes to, do what she thinks is right and not make any half-hearted decisions anymore. And that stone cold look in her eyes really gives off a villain feeling, or a big anti-hero or morally great character vibe. And I hope Elsie continues down this road towards the end of the series, because it'll make her a lot more compelling as a character. But what did you guys think of this chapter of Eden Zero? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below and your theories for what's going to happen next. If there's anything that I missed in this chapter, let me know as well, because sometimes there are some things that I could miss in these reviews, and I just love talking to you guys about these chapters and your thoughts on what's going to happen next, and your thoughts on just everything in general. So leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And also, once more, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help, and it shows that you guys like the Eden Zero videos a lot. Now, with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.